All right, welcome to another Philosophy Friday. My name is Kate, and I'm going to be sharing very briefly about the conceptualization of pranayama or pranayama. I think I'll start by breaking down the word. So pranayama can be broken down, it's like a compound word, into two different components that have a variety of meanings. And so the first chunk, prana, we can think of lowercase p prana as breath. We can think of capital P prana as a sense of life force or aliveness. And then the kind of suffix of the word, yama, can be translated to restraints. So if you're familiar with the yamas and niyamas, same word, yama. Or we can also chunk it in a different way to ayama, which means to lengthen. And so if we take all of those ideas together, we have this conceptualization of pranayama as being ways in which you can restrain or lengthen your breath in order to enhance your aliveness or enhance your life force. And so there's a variety of talking points I could talk about in terms of pranayama, but I'm going to just try to kind of hold it to one. Historically, and if we're thinking about like where this yoga philosophy came from, there are a variety of schools of yoga throughout time that have practiced pranayama in a variety of ways. And for many of those ways, the goal for practicing pranayama was multifold. They had many different purposes. But some of those purposes incorporated exploring ways to, if this idea of enhancing our aliveness, exploring ways to find themselves in expanded states. They were really curious, ancient yogis were really curious about what life really means, what death really means, how can I avoid death, and so therefore there's secrets to death, which translate also to secrets of life. They were alchemists. They did a variety of techniques to explore. And many of those techniques were documented in a text called the Hatha Yoga Pradipika, which the author there at the time was attempting to document all the different schools of yoga, how they were approaching yoga, and a lot of that involved and incorporated pranayama and pranayama techniques. And some of those techniques incorporated lengthening and restraining the breath, engaging in mudras, engaging in bandhas, for many of those in seated shapes. And so that's what we see in the Hatha Yoga Pradipika. I think energetically too, and if we think more along the lines of like the humanistic or spiritual aspect of pranayama, we often have this goal when we're engaging in pranayama of growing closer to ourselves. We can engage in pranayama techniques that help to increase our energy or think about raising energy. We can engage in pranayama techniques of channeling our energy. And with that, we can begin to explore ourselves, our fears, our desires, how we respond to those fears and desires, and how those ultimately develop a sense of story about ourselves and about our lives. And so I think if we pull these ideas into our general understanding of how we can incorporate them, or how we do incorporate them in our more modern Western approach to yoga, the asana classes that you sign up to, that you come to here in the studio, we see it marginalized a bit. You're not getting a whole lot of pranayama work. We don't see full pranayama classes on the schedule as much anymore. But you're going to have a teacher probably encourage you to lengthen your breath or to attune to your breath and be attentive of it. And I think the ultimate goal of that is to bring you closer to yourself in the moment. I think we can all agree that if we hold our breath in plank pose versus if we lengthen our breath in plank pose, we're going to feel something different, which is going to translate something different to our nervous system. It's going to translate something different to the narrative that's going on in our minds and such. And so we can use pranayama as a tool to further explore ourselves. And so, yeah. I'm going to stop there because if I keep talking, I'll probably talk for like several more minutes. But I think that's one big chunk or big takeaway that I would love for students here at M3, students who are joining us from a variety of other spaces and environments to consider, to contemplate, and reflect on pranayama.